So season 3 of Squid Game recently came out, and it's no surprise it's a very popular show, right? The previous seasons had extreme popularity as well, but all of this is done on purpose, right? This show is popular for a reason, and shows like these are released for reasons that go beyond entertainment purposes, right? A lot of people think that these sort of shows are just created to entertain the masses, right? And while that is one of the purposes of of these shows, um, a lot of the time there are reasons that go beyond the surface level when it comes to these sort of shows, right? A lot of these shows contain agendas, messages that are trying to be programmed into people's minds, trying to get people to accept certain agendas or certain messages, or just get them desensitized to new levels of violence or graphic nature that are not very mainstream in society, or are not very common in the world we live in. If you were to take a look at some of the shows maybe 10, 20 years ago, with a similar concept, or just with a similar genre, and you were to compare it to Squid Game, you would see the difference in the overall level of violence and just graphic nature of it, right? So I think that's one of the reasons shows like these have become so popular, right? Because it's trying to get people to be more desensitized to new levels of violence and it just graphic nature. Not only that, but if you really deep dive into the just symbolism used in the show, some of the messages that are portrayed in the show, and just some of the overall ideas that are presented in the show, you quickly start to realize that, again, a lot of this stuff goes far beyond just pure entertainment. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I would first suggest you look at a video called X Factor Winner Reveals World's Secret Religion. In this video, you'll get an in-depth answer as to why this is done in television shows like these, movies, and all sorts of media in general, right? Again, a lot of people may just look at things like this and see, oh, this is just a regular show, right? This is just a show about a couple of contestants battling it out for some prize money. But again, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Again, a lot of the time, media in general is used to shape public opinion and to, again, spread messages and get people to accept certain things that may not be very common in society, right? To get them to accept certain agendas or to adopt them to a new way of thinking. It would be very naive to think that the purpose of a show just like this is to just entertain, right? A lot of the time there are more layers to the onion, so to speak, and it goes far beyond, again, just the purpose of entertainment. If you were just to take a look at the show, for example, this show is just plagued with occult symbolism and a bunch of things that become quite obvious. So this show is just plagued with occult symbolism all throughout the show, right? I'll give you a quick example. In season 3 of Squid Game, there's a particular game that the contestants play, and I included it in this video. It's a image of a knife, but it looks a lot like an upside down cross, right? If you were to just fill in that top right corner of that knife, you would get an upside down cross. So again, this show is just plagued with symbolism like this. I'm not gonna go into full detail in this video. I listed some examples in this video, but again, there's plenty more. There's plenty of more of that stuff plagued throughout the show. I found it not interesting, but I wasn't surprised to see how the portrayal of Christians was in the show. In season 1, right, you have this crazy contestant that calls himself a Christian and just acts, in a very weird kind of religious matter, right? Again, the portrayal of Christians in this show in general is not a positive one. They're portrayed as loonies, as crazy people that don't seem to have all the screws tight in their brain, right? And that's just one example, the example of the contestant, right? And another example is the preacher that is shown preaching in the rain, right? He's portrayed as this crazy guy who is like kind of like, you know, crazy homeless guy looking guy who is just preaching this stuff, right? And just the overall portrayal of what a Christian looks like is not a positive one, right? So again, people who have no idea what Christianity truly stands for or what it truly looks like in an authentic manner, right, will digest these scenes as, oh, so this is what Christians look like in the real world, right? All these religious nuts, right? They'll just process it, you know, whether subconsciously or consciously, and again, form prejudice and you know, ideas of what a Christian stands for or looks like in real life, right? All through just watching a simple show like this. And it might sound absurd to suggest that stuff like this happens, right? That through a show, through a simple television show, people can form such strong opinions. But this is proven to be a fact, and there's actually you know, a science behind all this, a psychological, you know, science behind all of this. I believe, you know, one of the first people to suggest, you know, to start using television programming as a means of mind control, right, or just massive mind control on a global scale is Edward Bernays, right? I think he was Sigmund Freud's grandson, and one of the founders of, you know, I guess modern propaganda in the Western world, and how mass media can be used to shape public opinion, right? So all of this stuff has a deep history, and it's not just superficial babblings on my part, right? All of this stuff actually has, you know, data and history backed up into it if you do your research, right? I'm not going to go super into detail in this video, but all of this stuff has you know, data behind it and history behind it. So again, it's up to you on your part to look into it. But again, not to go too much on a ramble here, all of this stuff is done intentionally, right? And again, not to sound like a broken record, but this sort of thing is it goes beyond just entertainment, right? And it doesn't take much research to, again, start drawing these conclusions. You take a look at some of the just messaging and, again, symbolism in the show, for example, and you start to look into it a little more, and you start to realize that it's very occultic and dark, right? So the more dark, the more depraved, the more graphic something is, it seems like, the more it is promoted, right? Because that's the type of stuff that is trying to be installed in people's minds, right? That's the type of stuff that people are being brought up in, right? Unfortunately, anything truly positive or with virtue or with, you know, just a positive impact on the world is not going to be, you know, very popularized or very mainstream, unfortunately. At least not in most places. Again, it just seems like the opposite is true. The more dark something is, the more depraved it is, the more evil it is, the more it is promoted. And again, all of this is done by design. So, you know, there are some, I guess, positive themes or, you know, ideas that you can take away from a show like this. But I would not encourage you to watch it, right? I personally only watched season 1 of the show, and I watched the first episode of season 2, and I was just very disturbed by some of the scenes that I saw, and just by, again, the nature of it all. It just felt very dark, and the overall essence of it was just very evil to me, right? So I couldn't continue watching. I researched some scenes for the sake of this video. I researched some of the plot for the sake of this video, but overall I didn't watch the entirety of the show. And I would not recommend that you do, right? It's just very graphic, and it's not the type of thing that you want your mind to be, you know, plagued by, right? You don't want those images, that scenery, that overall wickedness to be in your thoughts, right? There's just enough of that in the world already. So stay away from stuff like this. Stay away from shows like this, media like this, music. That's another topic, right? The impact that music has on people's moods and overall psychology. But that's another video. So just again, be aware that stuff like this exists, right? And that the purpose of shows like this and media in general goes far beyond just entertainment. It's a brainwashing tool, basically, and it's a tool of programming. It's a tool to shape people's opinions and just overall thought processes, right? Get people to accept certain ideas, like I stated earlier in the video. And I highly recommend you watch the video that I stated earlier, right? X Factor winner reveals world secret religion. That video will truly give you a clearer picture as to why these things are done, right? Why this sort of stuff exists and why it's so heavily promoted. So if you made it this far in the video, hopefully, something in this video was of value to you. Hopefully something in this video got you thinking about, about daily life, about the stuff you consume on a daily basis, right? And So if you're new to the channel, welcome. I just talk about topics that I find fascinating, whether it be a show like this, a movie, a television show, anything that fascinates me in general, and try to share, the messaging or details behind it, or some sort of theme that may not be immediately obvious about it. Just any fascinating aspect about the topic in question in general. Use your own brain, draw your own conclusions. Don't just accept everything you hear and see on television. I encourage you to do your own research and draw your own conclusions, right? But most importantly, to just be open-minded enough to be willing to consider aspects or an angle about something that, you might not immediately accept, right? Just to be an open-minded person in general, and to draw your own conclusions based on the research and the things that you come across in your life, right, that you can honestly call truth, and to just use your own brain at the end of the day, right? Don't be a mindless sheep who, again, is swayed by public opinion or by what's popular. Do your own thinking, draw your own conclusions. That's the message of this video. Don't just freely accept everything you see on television again. Thank you so much for watching, for listening to this video. Hopefully, again, you got some value out of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.